Get-Ahead Summit was a day of smiles, embraces and handshakes, but today the Supreme Leader beamed for the cameras as he clasped hands with South Korea's President Moon Jae-in, in a day of embraces, handshakes, and beaming smiles. And a historic meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump could now follow in May or June. Mr. Trump, who recently swapped personal insults with Kim, tweeted that, "Good things are happening," but later warned the U.S. was not going to be played over talks with North Korea, after a furious year of missile launches and nuclear testing. A historic meeting between North and South Korea is now taking place. "Good things are happening, but only time will tell," he said. He later added, "Korean War to end. The United States, and all of its great people, should be very proud of what is now taking place in Korea." At today's meeting, the two Korean leaders agreed that the armistice that ended the Korean War in 1953 could become a peace treaty this year. Speaking at a banquet later, Kim said, "We bade farewell to the frozen relationship between North and South Korea, which was a nightmare. And we announced the beginning of a warm spring to the world." Mr. Moon declared, "New era of peace," saying, "There will be no more war," but many analysts remain cynical about the North's enthusiasm for engagement. One theory says Kim agreed to freeze missile tests only because an underground nuclear site collapsed. Previous goodwill pledges were abandoned after the North's weapons tests and more conservative South Korean presidents. But Kim said he and Mr. Moon agreed to work to prevent a repeat of the region's unfortunate history, in which progress fizzled out. He said, "There may be backlash, hardship and frustration. A victory cannot be achieved without pain." In a joint statement, he and Mr. Moon agreed an end to hostile activities between the nations and changing the Demilitarized Zone (DMZ) into a peace zone by ending propaganda broadcasts and arms reduction pending the easing of military tension, to push for four-way talks involving the U.S. and China, organizing a reunion to families left divided by the war, connecting and modernizing railways and roads across the border, and further joint participation in sporting events, including this year's Asian Games. The commitment to denuclearization does not explicitly refer to North Korea halting its nuclear activities, but aims for a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. China later praised the political determination and courage of both leaders, saying it hoped the momentum could be maintained. The first meeting of the leaders was heavy with symbolism. Getty holding hands, the pair stepped across the demarcation line into North Korea. They walked to the Peace House in Panmunjom, a military compound in the DMZ, and holding hands, Kim then invited the South Korean president to step briefly across the demarcation line into North Korea, before the pair returned to South Korea. The leaders planted a pine tree on the heavily fortified border dividing their countries, and later, speaking live on South Korean TV, Kim jokingly apologized to Mr. Moon for repeatedly forcing him to get up early because of the North's missile and nuclear tests. "I heard you had your early morning sleep disturbed many times to attend National Security Council meetings," he said. "I will make sure that your morning sleep won't be disturbed." Mr. Moon replied, "Now I can sleep in peace. I'm worried that our transport situation is bad, so it may discomfort you. It may be embarrassing for me if you visit North Korea after living in the South's environment." Kim Jong-un admitted the North's infrastructure lagged behind that of the South as he extended an invitation for Mr. Moon to visit him, adding, "I'm worried that our transport situation is bad, so it may discomfort you. It may be embarrassing for me if you visit North Korea after living in the South's environment." Later, with their wives, the leaders watched a music performance and watched a montage of photos from their summit, set to a Korean pop song that included the words, "Be a family again." After warm farewells between the leaders and their families, Kim was driven back to North Korea. The scenes marked a striking contrast to last year's barrage of North Korean missile tests and its largest ever nuclear test that led to sweeping international sanctions and fears of war. AFP. Get-Ahead leaders then sat for dinner and watched a musical performance together. Russia said it was ready to help cooperation between North and South Korea, and Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said he now expected Pyongyang to take concrete steps to carry out all its promises. Global markets were lifted by hopes the summit would pave the way for the end of conflict on the Korean peninsula. Shares in Seoul briefly rose more than 1% to a one-month high, and Japan's Nikkei share average also gained.